Welcome to the County Manager's Report. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and with me is Douglas County Manager Larry Werner. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Lloyd.
And we're going to be talking about the December 15th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. At that meeting, commissioners heard the comprehensive annual financial report. That was for last fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016. And could you give us some highlights of that financial report?
Yes, the initial thing right off the bat, it was an unconditioned report, which meant that there were no significant findings of wrongdoing or misappropriations, all that kind of stuff.
That's a good thing.
And we went through some of the stuff from the previous report that had been done the year prior, where there were quite a few findings basically related to security on our IT system and that sort of thing. And I think there were, I don't know, like 16 or 17 items that were addressed there. We've gone through those. A lot of them have dropped off the list, and we've made significant progress on those that were remaining. So that was positive. We did notice one thing after it had been adopted by the board, which we're working on, is that in the actual body of it, there's a couple of departments that show that they overspent their budgets, and we're trying to figure out how that possibly could have happened. So we're going back and looking at that, but that's not necessarily a significant finding, but it can be cause for a lot of discussions later on. But it appears that it may be a situation that wasn't under the control of particular departments, so we're going through that. So you'll probably see something public come out saying, even though these were overspent, here's the reasons why and how that happened. But that was kind of a gotcha, but that was after the fact. So.
Right. Well, our new auditing company, well, not new, maybe 2 or 3 years now, seems to be pretty thorough as far as checking over the books and everything.
They are, and if there are issues there that rise to an audit finding, we'll definitely hear about it. These things what I've just mentioned previously is basically an internal control issue that we need to deal with ourselves, so it's really not an audit. I mean, they're the ones that presented it, but
right.
It didn't rise to a concern of an overall audit, but they are thorough.
Yes, I've noticed. The reports are much longer than they used to be. Also at that meeting of December 15, commissioners adopted an ordinance amending Douglas County Code by adding language to provide for adjustments to monthly water bills due to water leaks. And so this one's been adopted now. We've taled about this before.
That's correct.
So this is now on the books.
Now it's on the books, right. And essentially it provides for a period of time if there's a leak on a private side of the water service, on a homeowner's side, that once they're notified that is a leak and they've identified it, then we can go back a certain period of time once they've fixed that and adjust their bill. If they act promptly, if it goes back more than a couple of months that after notification, then we won't adjust that portion of it, but try to give kind of incentive for people to take care of their leaks and kind of deal with the issue.
And I guess this applies just to the Douglas County water systems?
Yes.
It wouldn't be like Gardnerville or some of the other
systems.
systems.
No, those are independent.
Yeah.
Those would, if they wanted to do so, they'd have to pass their own rules and regulations that would allow that to occur too.
Right.
And they may already have that, as far as I know, Lloyd. So.
Okay. Also, commissioners adopted one we talked about a few times, an ordinance amending Douglas County Code to clarify the definition of live entertainment and special event in the liquor license code.
Right. A couple of years ago, there was an issue over live entertainment that was brought to the board, and an ordinance was passed. It mainly had to do with, I guess, gathering of loud musicians, and most of it related to amplified sound in areas that maybe weren't really intended to have that sort of function. But it wasn't clear the way it was written in the ordinance, and there was a lot of confusion about where it applied, where it didn't apply, who had to get a permit, who didn't. So this ordinance clears all that up and really kind of streamlines it. The district attorney's office has made kind of a matrix that if you're interested in doing something and concerned that you might fall within one of these categories, then you can either contact the sheriff's office or the district attorney's office, and they can kind of walk you through it. But it was really to clarify an existing ordinance that was causing a lot of confusion.
Okay, very good. Commissioners also heard a presentation. This was on the South Lake Tahoe Bear Box Loan Program. They loan you bear boxes? I didn't know that.
They loan them for a price.
Price, of
yes.
course.
It's an idea of having people become, I guess, more bear-proof proactive. I'm not quite sure how to say that. And it's an opportunity for somebody to maybe pay for a bear box out over time, or to borrow a bear box for a short period of time, those sorts of things. But try to get more and more control over just the refuse and stuff that's outside of homes.
So these are the boxes the bears can't figure out yet how to open.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, give them time. Commissioners also approved submitting the 2017 Federal Housing and Urban Development Community Development Block Grant applications. So we're now getting down to the rubber meeting the road here.
Right. We go through a long process to notify people that we're going to accept applications, then we review applications, and then we prioritize applications. I think this is the third step before it now goes to the state, where actually there's a committee there that will determine it. And the two programs that were submitted in Douglas County were the Eagle Gas Station from the town of Gardnerville and the relocation of the storm drain line within this building here
Right.
through
The Arts Council.
The Arts Council. So those kind of flip back and forth between which one's first priority, second priority. It seems to be kind of the whim of the day kind of thing. I shouldn't be facetious about that, but
maybe we'll get both of them.
maybe we'll get both. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I say,
hope.
it's a complicated process.
Yeah, it sounds it. I mean, and it does a lengthy, complicated process.
Exactly.
Okay. Also, commissioners approved a couple of labor agreements between the East Fork Fire Protection District and their firefighters, and also their Professional Firefighters Association battalion chiefs. And I guess this will be the last time that commissioners have a hand in the East Fork because they're getting a new board.
That's correct. That's correct. In fact, they'll be sworn in on January 3rd with the rest of the elected officials. And you're absolutely correct. The Douglas County Commission sat as the East Fork Fire Protection District Board, and then they revised that under the statutes, and now that district has its own board. But essentially, these are just to approve the annual contracts for the firefighters and the battalion chiefs.
Right. Well, they had to do that for the new year, I imagine. I mean,
Kind of get everything set. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
because the board's going to have a new board is going to have a lot to deal with.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes.
Well, also, commissioners adopted an ordinance amending Douglas County Code for requirements on excavations, street cuts and repairs, and encroachments and restoration on work sites.
Correct. This was the second reading of the ordinance that established the standards for basically public works construction within the rights-of-way. There'd been a lot of confusion between some of the towns and the general improvement districts that provide their own services and the county standards, and I believe this is to kind of bring everything into kind of a conformance so that everybody agrees on, just because you cross a political boundary, you're still dealing with generally the same requirements. So it was kind of, again, to eliminate some confusion between county code and other codes throughout the area.
Okay, more clarification.
More clarification.
That's good. Commissioners pulled an item from the agenda, and that was to approve Douglas County Community Health Clinic as the clinical services provider for public health here in Douglas County, and that would supersede the previous agreement with Carson City, who has been offering those services. And why did they pull this one?
It was interesting, yeah. The state law requires that each county have a county health board. And that county health board consists of the Board of County Commissioners, the sheriff, and the county health officer. And as long as it's kind of doing the things it was doing under Carson City, it really didn't need to meet as a formal board because it wasn't adopting separate regulations and opening clinics and that sort of thing. Because the county is now doing the steps necessary to provide those services, the county Board of Health has to meet formally. And the way that's set up by statute is that the health officer is the chairman of that board. And it turns out he couldn't make it. Through his schedule, he was not able to make it. And it really was decided that what we need to do is have that board meet as a separate board. So it's really clear that it is the County Board of Health, and that the person that acts in my type of position with the Board of County Commissioners would be Karen Beckerbauer, who's kind of the health director for Douglas County, and the chairman of that board, again, as I mentioned, is Dr. Holman, who is the county health officer. So it's really a different, distinct board, and it was kind of getting muddled up here amongst the county commissioners. So
I see. So they're going to be back, is that?
they'll be back, and I think we're setting that meeting for January 11th. It'll be meeting on Wednesdays probably once a quarter at the most,
Oh.
but basically because of Dr. Holman's schedule and when he can be available. So,
I see. Okay, so we'll see that one come back.
yes.
Okay, that pretty well takes a look at the December 15th meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. And you have a preview of what's coming up in January. Of course, we have a couple of new commissioners coming on board in
We do.
January.
We
Larry
do.
Walsh and Dave Nelson. And I see you have a draft of the agenda there.
I do.
Yes, maybe you can share that with us.
And I will. The first order of business is to elect the chair and vice chair of the Board of County Commissioners. So the Kathy Lewis, the clerk treasurer, will open up the meeting on January 3rd and take it down to the point that through the public comment, and then we'll have the election. At that point, it'll turn over to the board chairman, whoever is elected to be the board chairman at that time. And we have a lot of typical consent items. The ones of interest, of which there are a gazillion of them, are the board appointments.
Oh, yes.
Which county commissioners get appointed to what board, appointing the new membership of the different standing county commissions, the Water Conveyance Committee, the Senior Citizen Advisory Board. There's a whole litany of boards here that they'll go through. But the dynamics of that can get kind of interesting at times too, to see how the different commissioners, which boards and bodies they'd like to sit on and move around a little bit. So it could be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, there will be quite a bit of change there with 2 commissioners leaving.
Yes, yes. And a lot of times, there's been an interest in just substituting the new commissioner for the old commissioner, but there are different boards that different people want to serve on. So there'll be some negotiations going on through this one, which I think is good. Good. Then the next thing we have is the update on the taxes owed by the Historian Inn. That's been an ongoing issue with
Wow, yeah, that's been going on for
non-payment
quite
of
a while, actually.
yes,
Yeah.
business transient occupancy tax and those sorts of things. And the district attorney's office and the clerk treasurer have been working with the property owners to try to come up with a plan that maybe gets this resolved. So there'll be one more update, kind of a here's our last offer kind of approach, and see if the board agrees with that, and then we'll go forward on that one. And then we'll hear the 5-year capital improvement program. On the airport, we adopted the master plan, and we had talked about how it contains the capital improvement programs and that sort of thing. Well, this is now the formal 5-year capital plan. I have not reviewed it yet with Bobby Thompson, but if it's typical, she'll have a lot of good ideas, a lot of good things to do out at the airport. And then we have a couple of, we have a second reading on a zoning issue. I believe it's the one on south of Gardnerville, just on the curve. It was the restaurant, the car shop, and it'll be the mixed-use property.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's on the curve. yeah.
Martin Stall. And then the Ranch of Gardnerville is bringing forward a variance request on Zero Lane. There's been some issues on the construction standards necessary for Zero Lane. The towns have both heard the request, and we're now taking, and also the Planning Commission has heard it, and now we'll take it to the board to see if that's what they want to do. And then we have an issue going on with the ag properties and the A19 zoning, which is the agricultural land, where there's an opportunity for owners of land that have in excess of 100 acres of ag land to be able to do some small lot parceling as part of a heritage parcel if you want to leave it to your children and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And there was some confusion on definitions and development rights, and so we're going to try to get the board at least explain to them what the problem is, and then have them clarify what their intent was when they adopted that particular program several years ago. There's been some confusion about how staff has been applying the standard and whether or not that's consistent with the board's direction or not, so we're bringing that forward. And then there's a item to transfer 1.5 million out of the solid waste fund to the street fund to be able to redo Dump Road, Pinot Road, and try to improve that. It's been a pretty deplorable position to try
Sure.
to get that fixed. And then I've asked that a policy be adopted that sets how the county manager operates in front of the legislature. Because there's a question about whether or not, a position being voiced by the county manager, does that reflect the Board of County Commissioners? And so it defines the boundaries under which I can say, as the county manager, I can talk about these things. On other issues, then it would have to have the Board of County Commissioners have reviewed that particular legislation, and then I can translate that position. So it kind of clears that up to keep
I see.
everybody out of trouble. And then we have a standing item now to discuss legislation that may be pertinent to the county. And at this point, we don't have anything to bring forward, but we'll have it as a placeholder on the agenda.
Sure.
So that if we do need to have the board action, we got the opportunity to do that. And that would end the meeting, but it ought to be a pretty interesting meeting.
Well,
So,
it sounds like a lot on the plate there. Now, you said January 3rd,
yes,
so that's not a Thursday.
that's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point, Lloyd,
Yeah.
yes.
So I know it has something to do with the new year, and you have to meet on the first Tuesday, is that it?
Yeah, it appears to be that every election year, which is every 2 years,
Okay.
then the first meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, I think in all counties, has to be on the first Tuesday following the first Monday, or however that works, to get everybody sworn in, and then
Oh, I see.
and then you have your meeting. So
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Yeah, because the swearing in is that morning.
that's correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, actually, it's at noon, come to think of it. It's going to be kind of tight, but the swearing in
Yes.
ceremony is at noon, but it's not a very long ceremony.
No, it's
And they'll
short, but
have to run across the street.
and I think there'll be a lot of attendees, though. We're swearing in a lot of different folks. You know, the East Fork Fire Protection Board, I believe,
Oh,
will
yeah.
be there, and different town members and GID members, and
Yeah.
kind of swear everybody in.
Okay. Well, Larry, I want to thank you for sharing all the information you have with us here on the County Manager's Report. Our County Manager, Larry Werner. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time here on the County Manager's Report.